So let's pivot. Actually, let's keep actually talking about black people. We recently got reunited after some time after the whole Farrakhan debacle and all that type
Mhm.
of stuff. But I wanted to ask you, you know, since then, you shared things with me behind the scenes that we're not going to talk about here.
Mhm.
But, you know, I felt like you may have regretted certain things, maybe listening to certain people and all of that type of stuff.
Mhm.
So, my question to you is, would you have an apology for any other uh, foundational Black Americans that were holding you down up until that time that you may have, um, you know, kind of turned your back on at that time because of listening to things you shouldn't have listened to?
I mean, me and my son had a falling out. Uh, at one point, him and I may speak about it. But me and him were actually friends and had a close relationship. And this whole situation and everything that it kind of snowballed into kind of put him in a weird space. And, he had to distance himself from me, both publicly and personally. So that's sort of unfortunate because me and him had, at that point, like my son was someone that when I would get into situations, he would walk into them and help me multiple times. I saw it happen over and over
Mm-hmm.
again. When I talk about the whole glasses thing where he's like, I don't want nothing to do with this. My son was the opposite of that. When I had a situation, he'd be the first one to get in between me and whoever else and try to handle it peacefully.
And do you think maybe from having a relationship like that with my son that you thought maybe, somebody like Glasses would do the same? Is that why you kind
Well,
of felt that way?
it's the other way around. I knew glasses way before my son.
Oh, okay, got you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I knew glasses
got you.
way before my son. So, but it was cool to meet someone because there's been a lot of situations in my life where I had people that I thought I was cool with, I had relationships with, we done business together, I put money in their pocket in various ways, and when situations occurred, these people would back out. And that's happened to me a lot. These are people, I don't really want to mention names because at this point they're really nowhere in life, but yeah, like people like that have done that a lot over the course. So meeting someone like a Mysonne that was the opposite of that was like a breath of fresh air. Because like I said, I'm not like that. Like I've had situations where people gotten attacked in front of me and I've jumped into those situations. I didn't sit there and like punch the dudes and throw chairs or whatever, but I've gotten dudes off of them, and gotten to the point where everything's calmed down. So yeah, man, my son was one. I'm trying to think who else. That was sort of the big one. I mean, obviously the Godfrey situation, but that worked out in a different type of way. I'm not looking to reunite, in terms of his situation, because I feel that, I've already talked about that. With you, when you reached out to me, notice it didn't take us long to get on the phone. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm trying to think, is there someone that you have in mind that you want me to mention?
Not specifically. I mean, it could be just in general. You know what I mean? Like, I think there was people that rocked with you, um, in the foundational Black American community and felt disappointed
Yeah.
by your actions because a lot of people were saying culture vulture, culture vulture, culture vulture, and then you did some shit that looked culture vulture-ish.
Well, I mean, Killer
So do
Mike.
you feel like you want to maybe, apologize to those people for letting them down?
Well, I mean, look, Killer Mike, right after the apology that I did on Willie D's show, he reached out to me and he said, yo, man, thank you for doing that, because I don't want to say it, but I've been not doing interviews with you because of that. He never like talked to me about that, and we still maintain somewhat of a relationship. But when I thought about it, I'm like, oh yeah, he hadn't done interviews with me for a while. And he said, yeah, that was really the big reason, because he has people in the NOI like that he really respects and so forth. So that was like the first phone call I got after the interview came out. And I really have just like a ton of respect for Mike, right? Just overall, not only as an artist, but as a human being, as a father, as a business person, just overall, Mike is just a dope human being. And I was in Atlanta recently, and we got to really hang out for the first time socially, where he took me to the Blue Flame strip club and showed me around his old neighborhood and everything else like that. And it's like, okay, this probably wouldn't have happened without the apology. Just being in that moment with someone who I really admire. I mean, there was that.
So now why don't you go ahead? There's a lot of other doors that can open if you go ahead and right now just give a general apology to the people that you might have disappointed by following information that was faulty.
Yeah. Yeah, man, listen, I want to apologize to everyone that was rocking with me. At that moment, I actually did want to do an apology, but I had someone that was close to me, that was in my ear, that I found out later on had their own personal grudge against the NOI based on family members and so forth. And this was someone who I trusted, someone who I put a lot of faith into, which ultimately I don't really rock with anymore. And sometimes you make these moments with people that you think really have your back, and you realize they never really had your back, and they led you down a path that you went along with. Ultimately, I could never blame anyone on my actions, because they're my actions. No one put a gun to my head and made me do something. I did it myself. But you meet with people, you let certain people affect you, and sometimes those effects don't end up being good effects, man. And I feel since doing the apology, I have not regretted it at all. I feel that only good things have come since that apology. And me and you reuniting is one of those things.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. I like that answer. Okay. What do you think was your most impactful interview? Impactful. I don't mean the most views. I mean impactful.
I think that's an easy one. It's the Keffe D interview.
I knew he was going to say that.
Yeah. Well, because
I knew you were going to say that.
Well, look, like historically, not legally, but historically, that interview solved the Tupac murder, right? For the first time, someone that was involved in the actual murder, allegedly, gave a complete play-by-play of what led up to it, what happened during the incident, and what happened afterwards. And as a Tupac fan, there was always that thing in the back of your mind about what really happened. Is he really dead? Did Suge have something to do with it? Did the FBI set him up? There's this, there's that, and you finally got a real play-by-play to, would you say, there's of course the Biggie murder, but I would say the Tupac murder is the biggest unsolved case in hip hop history. Right?
Yeah.
The biggest unsolved case in hip hop history.
Tupac and Biggie, I guess.
Yeah, both of them, but I would say that historically, Tupac ended up being a bigger artist than Biggie.
Yeah, yes.
That's all I'm saying. So based on the stature of the person involved, this is the biggest unsolved story of hip hop in the history of all of hip hop. Not to say it's the most important or whatever else, because, a lot of people lost their lives. Scott LaRock got killed. No one knows who did that.
Scott LaRock, and I don't think his is solved.
Yeah, his is all, Scott LaRock is a very important person in hip hop, but Scott LaRock is not Tupac in the grand scheme of things in terms of people knowing who he is, the effect he had on the world, and so forth. So, yeah, that would be my most